Congressman Lazarette, thanks for joining us again this week.
Sure.
Not surprisingly, we're going to talk about the government shutdown.
Right.
It seems like it's basically the only thing that's being talked about here in D.C.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about how we got to this point, where we're at now, and where the heck is this going?
Well, you know, unlike the government shutdowns of 95 and 96, people actually saw this one coming. That one caught people by surprise. But the sort of the notes have been out there, and the Republicans are not big fans of Obamacare, and it really got a life of its own when Senator Ted Cruz of Texas decided to make this his, sort of his big stand. And then that coalition that elected a Republican majority in 2010, the Tea Party and others, really sort of ramped it up and put pressure on the Republican conference to bring it to this moment in time. And the thing about it is that there's no way that the president is going to get rid of the one piece of legislation that his whole administration hinges on. So again, the art of being a legislator is figuring out what's doable. I mean, I'd like to have a size 32 waist again. It's not going to happen. And so I have to manage my expectations. And what people haven't come up with yet is both sides. The president says, I'm not going to negotiate. The Republicans say, repeal Obamacare. Neither one of them are reasonable positions.
This is what's confusing, I think, to me and to a lot of folks, though. It seems like inevitably where this is heading is there was no chance the president and Harry Reid, the Democrats in the Senate, were ever going to say, fine, we give in, we give up on Obamacare.
Right.
So that at some point it was always going to be eventually up to Republicans to fold on this because the votes weren't there to do this, and there's no chance Democrats were going to change their mind. In a way, it feels a little bit like a kamikaze mission, that there was just never any hope for success. We all know where this is going, and it doesn't end well for Republicans. Am I missing something here?
No, you're not missing it. It was not a good strategy, and I think if you ask Speaker Boehner, he would say that this isn't. I mean, this strategy was forced upon him by 40, 50 House Republicans, because you remember the original plan was to send over a continuing resolution to keep the government open that repealed Obamacare, and then the separate vote would have been to keep the government open and with a couple other cats and dogs. And that was rejected by them. And it was rejected by them after Ted Cruz got up and began to make this a sort of a national thing, that if you're a Republican and you're not for it, then you're not a good Republican. And it sort of painted them into a corner. And so I don't think it's a winning strategy. However, at the end of the day, the way out of this mess is the president and the Democrats are going to have to come up with something. And I will tell you, the things that are being talked about is the medical device tax, which 76 senators voted for. Keystone Pipeline has been out there, and the Republicans could take Keystone Pipeline and declare victory, and everybody would go home. And the president on Social Security and Medicare threw out chain CPI the other day. Last year. And so if there were serious discussions going on, and the president were willing to give on a couple of these things, we could get out of this.
A few months ago, we talked about this, and it seemed like the big battle was going to be between the Senate's top line number and the House's top line number. And the Dems gave in and essentially agreed to the House's number, and it seemed like that would have been an opportunity to declare victory. Let's say that the president is willing to give in on something like Keystone, which has obviously been very important to Republicans. Do you think that that they can then get these handful of folks who have been opposed to everything to take the victory when they get it and move forward?
No, you won't get these people ever, because they want to take that no vote, go home and say, I opposed everything. The goal will be to position Speaker Boehner to a place where he can go forward with a majority of his conference, joined by Democrats, and get to 218 votes. And that's the only way out of this mess. Because if you are counting on these men and women who have been no for 3 years, they're going to say no. They're going to say, well, yeah, you gave us the Keystone Pipeline, but where's Obamacare? But at this moment in time, there's no motivation for Speaker Boehner to put a clean CR on the floor today would be a complete cave on the part of the Republicans. And it's a little bit like, you know, when a shark smells blood in the water, the Democrats will just go for their throats at that point. So there has to be something.
So this brings up the next kind of, as we manage from crisis to crisis here in D.C., the next potential crisis, which is one that seems even larger than the government shutdown, and that's a question of raising the debt ceiling and the specter of us defaulting on our debt.
Right.
Is it possible? I mean, is that are we looking at a situation like what we've got here with the government shutdown?
Yes, it's very possible, which I never thought I would ever say. But right now, what's going on, according to well-placed individuals within the government, there are very high-level, very quiet discussions now ongoing between the White House and the Senate and the Republicans and the Democrats in the House. Because I think this shutdown is going to last a couple weeks at least. And that takes you to Columbus Day, which takes you to about the time the federal government runs out of money. So I don't think that what was originally planned, we're going to have two separate events, government shutdown and then debt limit. I think we're going to have one big event. And the way to get out of that one big event in a way that solves the country's problems is to have the big deal. And I think they're currently working on the big deal. And in order for the big deal to be successful, everybody's going to have to be a little happy and a little unhappy. And so again, you're not going to get the far right of the Republican conference to be happy because they will think they didn't get enough, and you're not going to get the progressive wing of the Democratic Party to be happy because they think they're giving up too much. But you need about four people to be happy: John Boehner, Barack Obama, Harry Reid, and Mitch McConnell. If those four people think that it's a deal, they have it within their power to assemble majorities in both houses to get something to the president's desk.
So is it possible that these kind of catastrophes could actually lead to something positive? I mean, we've talked, I mean, you obviously talked about the big deal for a really long time now, and it seemed like one of those things that, like, there was just never enough pressure applied to make it happen.
There's going to be a moment in time in about 2 weeks, about the 15th of October, when people will have, I don't know if I'd call it a good thing, but people will have the opportunity, if they want to be leaders and if they want to be statesmen, to stand up and seize from this mess the opportunity to take a giant step forward. I mean, you could have tax reform in there, you could have entitlement reform in there, you could have, you know, a continued reduction of spending, and so there could be something good come out of this. But I don't know. I don't have high hopes, but we'll see.
Well, I hate to end on that note, but we will. I'm sure this won't be the last time we talk about spending, continuing resolution, government shutdown, debt ceiling.
No, but it won't. And I just want to add one footnote that a couple of weeks ago we talked about the fact that there was a good piece of news, and that is that there was a bipartisan agreement on the Water Resources Development Act. I just got a piece of news that they're not going to put it on the floor anymore because of this other fight. So it really is all on debt ceiling, government closure, and bipartisan, like Elvis has left the building.
Well, on that note, thank you once again. We appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure.